with any luck, we can do this one slightly quicker so we don't have to bounce it down to such an awful resolution. So you get the basic concepts. I'm doing basically the same things. So my kick has, roughly the same plugins, and I'm boosting low ends with my kick out. Got my sub kick. Mid cut, top end cut. I didn't do that last time. Sometimes the kick out can get a little bit of spill from other places, so that's probably cutting out a bit of cymbal noise from the outside kick. 1176. There we go. Different mid cut to last time. Maybe I just felt there's a little bit of resonance there or something. Okay, 1176 again, and a little bit this time of just getting that snap out of the kick, that little resonance. Okay, right, and then gating it this time. Maybe I felt there was slightly more noise on this take or something, or I don't know, to be honest, because this was the same recording session as the last one. But this seemed to work. It seemed to make the kick sound tighter as a whole. On the whole, I should say, not as a whole. It's not a whole. So okay, right. Clean compression. Just that's not. I don't imagine that's doing much. No, not doing much at all. Just enough to even it out slightly. Okay, so this time the rack tom has been triggered again, as the same thing happened as last time. Mike died on this one. Seemed to be okay while we were doing the sound check, but we didn't want to stop and do anything in particular that would harm recording sessions flow, so we left as it was. And well, I've had to trigger, but to be fair, these toms sound good on just basic toms on Logic, so I can't complain. Oh god, I'm going off topic so much. Right, okay. So yeah, same thing as last time. This one has a lot of this, a lot of 700 hertz. I can only assume that must have been a point of kind of resonance and dinginess that I wanted. And then adding low end in again. Okay, right. So, and then I've instead of gating the toms, this time I cut them out. I think it seems more reasonable. Same processing, basically. Then overheads, same processing, roughly. Got a few little resonances I didn't like. Then nice dirty compression. That's the stereo version of the... Oh yeah, I should mention that I've done the processing not on these, but on this again, and rack toms hard left and right. Overheads aren't so hard. I like them to kind of be slightly more central and let things like the guitars and toms dominate the outsides of the stereo field. LA2A, compressor. I did do a bit of drive on the overheads this time, something I hadn't done last time. Seemed to work okay. Made them a little bit more saturated, and then compressed them against the kick as expected. Okay, right. Room. This time I worked this differently. I wanted more. I didn't want the 1073 distortion this time, so just a little bit of this, and then compressing against the room. And this, I really love this plugin, Native Instruments, actually. It's like a tone knob, a compressor, and gain, all in one, and it does all of them really well, I think. So, hot distortion on that. Okay, guitars, right. I did some extra distortion here. Extra distorted guitars. I did some extra distorted guitars here. In fact, I've played most of the guitar on this record, on this particular song. Not on the whole record, not on the EP. On this particular song, I've played most of the guitar, which is slightly scary, but you've got to do what you've got to do, and I felt like this gave the song extra dynamism that kind of snaps in the chorus, bad apps, and then this was just to thicken up the middle eight, which is really the heaviest part of the song. So Ryan's guitar is here on the N201. What I've done there Yeah, a little bit of resonances that weren't coming out here that like I wanted, and I wanted him to have the more presence that makes it sound distorted but clear, as I explained in the How It's By video, and cutting out mids, cutting out low mids, I should say, because that's where other things are sitting. They're all there. Okay, right. So then 1176 compression, more brightness yet again. Although I've also actually, oh no, I haven't boosted bass, it's off, and the high pass is on. Okay, then compression to the kick, and compression to, what's that? It's compression to, the snare as well. It must have been, I think the parts were slightly higher in this song, and so they were conflicting more with the kick, so I decided to compress them against that as well. Joe's part's really small. He did it on a clean guitar sound, and I decided that took away too much from the overall vibe of the song, so I made it distorted. I just basically added a distortion and an amp emulation on top that was a distortion. That's alright. I really wasn't looking for top end with this. He was playing a part that was quite high up, so I did that EQ there. Noise gate just for these parts. Could have cut them out really, probably being a bit lazy not to. And then again, I think that was just to I'm not sure actually. Oh, I'll tell you what it was. It was a bit of emulation, yeah, a bit of automation. There you go, gain automation. Okay, just so then I don't have to automate this and then not be able to control the faders. Okay, right, bass. I've done clean bass on this as well. The distorted bass setup is exactly the same as last time, with a bit of a noise gate because at the end, because the distortion here, it gets all really fuzzy at the end. So I've put a noise gate on. That seems to work. Right, I've got clean bass in the verses as well. So amp emulation, it's quite mid-rangey, this bass, and then a little bit of compression, and EQ, getting more kind of clang out of it, and getting more pick attack and stuff like that. A compressor, it's compressing to the kick in the verses as well. Okay, then backing vocals. I actually recorded these backing vocals in the studio, panned them slightly to the left and the right, made like a nice chorus of voices, and all I've got on these is supercharger. Yeah, some kind of warmth, that kind of cuts top end out of the sound as well, so that's good. Means I'm kind of sitting them back a little bit, and a little bit of compression as well, and a little bit of distortion. It looks like a lot, but actually the mild setting is very mild, really. And then their own little reverb. The chorus kind of makes them slightly more ethereal, and also sits them back further in the mix. I really don't want to compromise on the identity of the band, and so if I'm doing parts, I want to make sure they're tasteful and they sit well. And then making sure that I haven't really got any body in the vocals either, so they just sound like an extension to the main vocal line. And the main vocal line, ooh, that's a heavy effects chain. Basically the same as before. So de-esser, vocal rider to help even out before the compression, then an EQ after the compression. There it is, and then a little bit more EQ after the compression, and then I've got the gain there just to help. Well, I think I've sat it up, and I don't know if I've also automated the gain as well, so I didn't have to automate the fader, which can cause issues. Right, okay, let's go to bus processing. So this time, as I said before, I've got my snare on a snare reverb on a bus send. I like this Arvo for snares. Don't know why. Just sounds good. Got kind of the lower mid emphasis on the reverb, like 0.8 seconds. Quite this decay setting kind of gates it almost. It's like it decides on the whether you want a gate and then how much release you want on the gate. So that's quite cool. I'm able to do the gating there rather than gate the reverb afterwards. And that's basically it for that. I've used for the instrument reverb, which goes on absolutely everything apart from the kick and bass. I've basically used the same style of reverb as the snare, but a lot less of it. So I felt that worked quite well, made everything sound like it was in the same room kind of thing. Vocal reverb, similar thing as before, a lot longer on this song though. I felt like this song had the space for it and wanted to be less kind of in your face with the vocals. On the advice of Luke, I started using this for my delays, which is it's more saturated, it's more tape-ish. Well, that would seem obvious, wouldn't it? But it's doing basically the same thing as beforehand. So I'm happy with that. And then sub kick, as before, because I made the mix. I got into the habit of making the mix quite tight, and then wanted to reintroduce bass end. I know it's not the most natural way to do it, and there probably are much longer ways around it, but it seemed to work for me. Just mixing in extra bass end basically back in, and this compressor here as well, just to even all of it out. Okay, then you've got your parallel compression on drums. This time I did differently. This time I decided to boost an absolute load of top end into DVX 160, which is a nice colour for drum compression, as well as the FSL, to be honest. Either one of those is nice. I think I've ended up using this more because it kind of slams a little bit more, I'd say. Then music bus, compressing everything against the vocals. Simple. This compression, this ducking, this side chaining is only really ever doing 1 decibel of reduction, so it's not very audible, but it does help. And basically the same processes. Yeah, I've just decided what I've mixed the same and what has been recorded the same, and I seem to have got the balance and the learners slightly better this time, but I still wanted more presence. I just found a mastering tray that worked well for me last time, really. And you've got your compressors, that's obvious, they're just tickling it really, just getting it to, just evening it out better, kind of dealing with transients and stuff like that. And then you've got all of this malarkey. I mixed it up quite a lot quieter, but boosting it, getting the same kind of thing, 2 to 4 dBs worth of reduction, and that is the entire mix. Thank you very much.